World of Warcraft Classic has a serious problem.
Has a serious problem. It's getting worse, and there is no reason to think that things will improve, because this problem stems from the very people responsible for the game.
It's the developers not knowing how to balance even two abilities correctly. Must be it.
Blizzard Entertainment. So what is this problem? The short answer is monetization, and how it drives Blizzard's game development philosophy. But
I mean that too. World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King got the token. I don't see the reason why everything else shouldn't get a token.
explain why this is such an issue, we need to dig a little deeper, and that means taking a trip back in time all the way to 2004 and the launch of World of Warcraft, and a very different era of gaming.
What a cinematic, boys. Bro, getting a little bit of those chills down the spine, that's how good this stuff was.
Back in the early 2000s when WoW was being developed, online gaming was very much in its infancy. Yes, MMOs like EverQuest, Asheron's Call and Ultima Online had existed for years by this point, and other genres had captured their own gaming audience too, with titles such as Unreal Tournament, StarCraft and Counter-Strike.
Man, this Unreal Tournament was so good.
Still, this was a far cry from today's era, where online gaming is arguably the default way of playing for many.
Yeah.
WoW came out years before the rise of Call of Duty and League of Legends, not to mention the popular games of the last decade like Fortnite, and hell, even Minecraft is young compared to WoW. And the relevance of this is that it helps to explain why early WoW was monetized so differently to the online games of today, including modern retail World of Warcraft. So at launch, World of Warcraft made its money in two ways. Firstly, you had to actually buy the game, and as far as I'm aware, you did have to physically buy the game, as in, go to your local game shop, find a lovely boxed copy, pay for it, and come home. Now
I don't know about that lovely box copy. I had Classic and Burning Crusade. Bruh, the moment they added the Battle.net account thing and I could just link my CD keys there, I'd throw those copies out instantaneously. But I had them for a very long time. Absolutely no regrets.
say prepare for some nostalgia with this video, and I'm sure all of us older players have that sweet memory of the day we bought WoW. I was only 13 myself, and I went with my mum to go and get it. Afterwards we went to a nearby cafe and I spent about 40 minutes yapping my head off to her about all the cool adventures I was going to go on, and how I was going to tame this Yeti as my hunter pet. Honestly, being a kid is such a magical experience, and that memory is an absolute treasure to me. I know I'm getting older, but the days of buying boxed copies of video games from a shop, man, you didn't always strike gold, but when you did...
Ooh, the Max Payne originals, Jesus.
Awesome feeling.
Deus Ex, Silent
as I've
Hill
said,
2.
the first method of monetization was actually buying the game itself. The second form of monetization is one we all know well, because it's remained consistent over the last 20 years of WoW, the subscription. Every month, WoW players fork out money to play the game. It says a lot about how different the world was in the early years of Warcraft that many of us had to practically take debating classes in order to convince our parents that paying a monthly online fee for their child to play a video game wasn't a recipe for disaster.
Private servers, baby, at the end of the day.
In my case, I was only allowed to play WoW if I bought game time cards from the shop, and I did.
Listen, these were the good old days when you played Anarchy Online, and you got membership because you took the option of mailing them the money. That was an option back then in Anarchy Online. Okay, I get this membership, but I mail you money. And after a month, if they don't receive the money, well, your membership gets terminated and your account gets terminated. Great fun, great fun.
I did this for years before I switched to paying online. But once you'd figured this stuff out, you had your game. And Blizzard had about as much money as they could reliably squeeze out of you, short of releasing the next boxed expansion. A one-time fee for the boxed copy, and a monthly subscription. That was it. And you know what? It worked really well. Or so we thought. You see, whilst WoW was soaring in the West, growing an audience of millions and playing a pivotal role in the development of online gaming culture, other important innovations were taking place in the East, particularly around monetization. Now, the concept of microtransactions in video games...
We can't blame the East with microtransactions and whatnot for the fall of Western developers. Western developers are as greedy. The reality is, World of Warcraft went down the wrong path. The moment when World of Warcraft came out, the world was relatively young. Pop and mom shops existed, a lot of things like that, small businesses. But now, only the giant businesses that have survived from those times exist. Everyone else has closed up shop. And, well, they are a part of the market, the trading market, the trading federation, the evil stock exchange. And line always must go up. And that is now the biggest problem. You don't have the option of being on the stock market or even a successful company nowadays if you make 100 million, but your next prediction for your next revenue of the next year for that period of time is not at least like 10% more. If it's not, disaster. If it is, good. So they always need to get that line going up, and that is fundamentally probably the biggest problem the gaming faces, and why things like this kind of become bad.
Games is so widespread now that it feels pointless even explaining it. But back in the days of vanilla WoW, it was essentially unheard of in the West. Some say that MapleStory was the first Eastern MMO to incorporate microtransactions into its monetization. But whatever the case may be, over time, the notion that there were more ways to make money from an online game than the initial purchase price and/or subscription fee started to filter its way westward. And it's hardly surprising that these ideas took root as more and more online games followed in WoW's footsteps, carving out their own loyal audiences online as the companies behind them grew and grew. World of Warcraft's history of microtransactions really begins in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, which is ironic considering that there were more concurrent players then than at any point before or since, meaning more boxed copies of the base game plus its two first...
Well, the reason for that is not that World of Warcraft was this evil thing, but it's the fact that a lot of companies started doing stuff like that and expanding possibilities of making money. Again, the reason why Valve has the luxury of just doing nothing and be touted as the greatest paragon of gaming and integrity is because of the fact it is privately owned. No, there is no person except Gabe in Valve who can say, okay, listen, you need to make games 20% more expensive because you need to beat the earnings of the previous year. Gabe looks at that and he's like, yeah, I like this amount of money, this is fine. And that's how it works. And Valve is currently reaping the absolute crazy rewards of the bold yet extremely successful strategy of do nothing and wait until your opposition shoots themselves in the foot. And it's working. And why? Because they don't need this line going up. They don't. They just do whatever Gabe tells them to do. They can see this line go down and Gabe can be like, this is fine.
Expansions being purchased and more monthly subscribers paying to play the game. I say this because it's important to remember that as much as one might argue that increased monetization of a game is necessary if the team is expanding and producing more content...
No, it's not. That's complete bull. We know this is not true. From movies to gaming to absolutely everything, things just get more expensive, then they need to make more money. This is a complete pitfall.
Wrath, TBC, not to mention the massive vanilla WoW itself. I mean, are we really going to suggest that they had less investment and therefore less content than, say, Warlords of Draenor? Please. At first, the microtransactions in WoW were very micro indeed. Paid game services like name and server changes had been around for some time, but it was the inclusion of the Celestial Steed mount added to the new cash shop in
Oh yeah, this was the first. Jesus.
April 2010 that really marked the beginning of a new era. But honestly, none of us really cared that much at the time. It's important to remember that the culture of players was somewhat different back then. Experienced players weren't interested in flying around on a store-bought mount. They wanted Invincible or the time-lost Proto-Drake, something which would show off their skill and dedication to the game. So if you were
Not mentioning Ashes of a lot. Me not calling it Ashes of a lot.
seen on a store mount back then, all that it indicated to many of us was that you were either new or bad at the game, not that you had something cool. Blizzard even acknowledged this themselves by adding an NPC to the Cataclysm expansion later that year called Johnny Awesome, a blood elf in Hillsbrad Foothills who would proclaim his skill and experience all the while riding a celestial steed
I did this quest line not even 3 weeks ago.
named Twinkles and annoying everyone around him. It's ironic that Blizzard would mock a type of player that they were actually beginning to tailor the game for. But really, this just goes to show how easy it was for the company to introduce these cosmetic microtransactions.
Okay, first of all, it's not even Blizzard's fault, honestly, completely. If we want to talk about Johnny Awesome, okay, let's talk about Johnny Awesome. In the Hillsbrad Foothills, after Kata, there is a quest line where you need to kill people who are digged into the ground with a shovel. Blizzard did not want to originally change anything, but people were starting to cry like losers, like absolute spineless freaks. Oh, I don't want to hit people with a shovel in the ground. What if they feel pain? And Blizzard had to change it, okay? It's Blizzard's audience that also changed into a bunch of spineless, wimpy crybabies. That cannot be underestimated. And that is currently the main audience of everything in a Blizzard in a huge sense. Now, it's a little bit different, for example, from Classic, and I'm not talking about Season of Discovery. No, I'm not talking about Season of Discovery. That's filled with boomers. But for example, Kata. I'm currently leveling a DK in Kata. And, man, when it was below Outlands, not Outlands, but below Wrath of the Lich King, it was fine. I could just, start running and tanking all of the instances non-stop, just, full speed sprint from start to the boss, no stops, no nothing. And it was fine. Now in Wrath of the Lich King, bruh, I have gotten kicked 3 times from dungeon groups because, why aren't you stopping? The healer, he has 50% of the mana bot. Why does he need to stop? He doesn't. And then, you start moving, you clear a pack, and then there's a 5-minute break so everyone can loot. Dude, it's just horrible. The modern day audiences from World of Warcraft are just losers. Spineless, complete morons. I literally don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Again, 50% of times I'm rolling the dice here, the fact that the healer is literally some kind of inbred who can't heal on the move, or somehow magically wastes all of his mana in a single pull, even if I'm going slow, which is roughly 4 groups of mobs. Dude, it's insanity. It is insanity how weak these people are, and they have the account bound whatever gear it's called, and they can't. Dude, how do you run out? How can you not heal? Like, the people who are playing this game are also a huge part of the problem.
Just goes to show how easy it was for the company to introduce these
And when I'm saying it's a 50% coin flip, I'm actually being generous. Again, since it started with not Kata, but Wrath of the Lich King dungeons, dude, this has been a problem non-stop. In Burning Crusade, we just speed blitz through them. No stops, no nothing. Okay? It was great. But now in Wrath of the Lich King, the healers are like, stop! I'm 70% mana. I need to man up. Stop! Jesus. And again, it's also insane. In the Burning Crusade dungeons, there was no problem with DPS. Everyone was pumping like there was absolutely goddamn no tomorrow. Something magical just happens in the Wrath of the Lich King. I'm seeing literally paladins who are rets and dealing 500 DPS. How is this possible? It makes no sense. Just the switch is insane. So again, the player base is literally to blame for for a lot of things that didn't have that Blizzard ruined, because they allowed them to be ruined, and they probably wanted that to a degree.
Cosmetic microtransactions. It was a joke, one they themselves were able to acknowledge.
If you're a healer and you're going into a dungeon and you cannot sustain your mana from start to finish without a break, you're a loser. You're a noob. You should feel bad about yourself, and maybe you shouldn't play a healer because you're trash.
And as usual, something which would go on to define the game was allowed to quietly slip in without any real resistance. We've seen this with so many features in WoW, but I doubt when we look back in the years to come, anything will have had as much of an impact as microtransactions. And now I'm honestly wondering, how many Celestial Steeds did Blizzard manage to sell because dumb teenagers thought Johnny Awesome was actually funny? You know what? I don't want to know. Since 2010, microtransactions in WoW have gradually increased with each expansion. More cosmetic items, more mounts, and more services too.
I have seen this. What was this, from Captain Grimm?
So Pandaria was the first expansion to introduce the level boost, allowing players to bypass what was at the time a lot.
I bought that shit. Absolutely 100%. I would not play Cataclysm without the level boost. Shut up. The level boost is awesome. You should feel bad for saying anything otherwise. If you don't want to spend your money, okay. But let's be real. We are at the point when we all understand that buying gold is not bad, and if someone does, that's not a problem. I literally no longer look down at anyone who buys gold. Most of my guild does it, and my grade leader is literally one of the people that actually, got a server first at clearing kata raids when it just launched. So, no one cares, okay? It's time to understand the reality that it's better to go and work 1 hour a day and do something and get paid, and then use that money to just buy World of Warcraft gold, not actually farm in game. Now, I personally flip items, so I'm completely exempt from this, because, I roughly spend 20 minutes a day flipping items, and I'm rich. There you go. But that's not for everyone.
Long and somewhat tedious leveling process, all at the low price of several months worth of subscription money. And it was during the truly exceptional Warlords of Draenor expansion.
Shit is really expensive though. How much was the level boost? Like 70 euros? Damn, that's a lot. But worth it.
That Blizzard added the WoW token to the game, arguably making it pay to win in the process. If you aren't familiar, the token
never bought about token.
Can be purchased for real money on the cash shop and then sold in-game for gold, which can
Wait, this isn't Kata. Huh, I should join the GDKP and buy a couple of these tokens.
Used to pay for boosts from other players through challenging endgame content. I know this sounds hard to grasp, deliberately so in my opinion, but what this means is that through a multi-step process, a player could effectively pay real money to gain access to the best gear, titles and achievements in the game, bypassing the challenge of working their way up, and, when you think about it, the very reason for playing the game in the first place. It used to be that people paid to play WoW. It was a great game, and those of us lucky enough to discover it early when we were still kids loved it. Now people pay not to have to play.
You know what I don't like about videos like this? They kind of generally boil down to just one thing. Oh, if times were different, things would be different. Yeah. When we played World of Warcraft at the beginning, we were all Puritans because we didn't have any money. Now we have money. And buying... By the way, I'm pretty sure that actually the majority of normal players in World of Warcraft have nothing against buying gold. In Season of Discovery, dude, if you're not buying gold, you're probably failing at life. Everyone buys gold. It's like an open thing that people do and no one complains about it. And people who complain about it probably buy but don't tell anyone about it. Again, times change. It is what it is.
Play WoW. To skip any and all content deemed too difficult, too time consuming, or worst of all, too reliant on actually working with other players in a massively multiplayer online game. They pay to not play. Madness, I tell you. And finally arriving at the current age of retail WoW, microtransactions have become accepted, however unwillingly, as just a part of the game and the direction it's taken. Some players are happy.
Streamers take gold donations. That is also literally just not playing the game, but, not paying also.
With it, and others have realised with grim acceptance that the cash shop simply isn't going away. I would argue personally that a big reason why Blizzard has pushed retail WoW towards a more cosmetic, collectible focused game is because it encourages microtransaction purchases. If players are mostly interested in what new cosmetics they can...
Does it? I still remember the spit. Okay, buying gold and buying a cosmetic mount is completely two different things, okay? If you buy a mount, spit. It is what it is.
Can get on their character, if that is the mark of an accomplished player rather than their raiding and PvP achievements or simply their social experience in the game, then why not pay real money for the new cool looking stuff, especially if this is becoming increasingly normalised as just what WoW players do. But hey, that's just one of my retail WoW conspiracy theories. But this video isn't about retail, and I can already hear you asking, Vulgrin, what does this have to do with Classic? Why is the monetization history of WoW and the current practices in retail important to Classic WoW?
Because they're gonna put it in Classic WoW, obviously. If someone couldn't figure this out, that's where he's going. But I could have figured that where he's going there from the first 20 seconds of the video.
And why is this such a problem? Well, now that we've covered the history of the game, from 2004 all the way to 2024, now that you know how we got to this point, I can explain it very clearly. I don't think Classic WoW makes enough money for Blizzard. I don't think it makes enough money for them to invest the necessary resources which are required for Classic to be at its best.
That's not how companies work, though. But you see, again, you could figure out that this is going to be the point from the first 20 seconds of the video, guys. Like, Jesus. Go read a book if you couldn't. Okay, so this is not actually how companies work. You see, a company like Blizzard has absolutely no problem with Classic WoW being undercooked and actually losing them money. Again, everything depends on line going up. And which parts, as long as the whole line goes up, it's good. If there is a part that is actually losing them a lot of money, like Classic World of Warcraft, that's good. That is good. Listen, in real life, this is what happens. If you have a giant company that's selling stuff and you have like a comments department or whatever, you know what's going to happen. You know what the smartest people in charge there do? They implement, on average, like four strategies that they're gonna do for every quarter. So they actually sell more than the previous year. Your 5-10%, and after they have achieved their budgetary goals, they don't do anything. Oh yeah, because why would you do anything? That's stupid. If you can make 10%, then that's good. That's already above what was expected from you. You're an idiot if you do more in a non-privately owned business. Because no one's going to reward you for that. You have already achieved your bonus. You have already gotten everything. You're good. You're solid. If you do any extra work now, implement something that's going to make it go from 10% to 20%, you're just technically ruining yourself. Because next year, guess what? When the budget is being decided for that, the finance department is not going to let you, just increase it by 10%. No. Then it's going to be 25% because you already beat it by that much. And that's going to be expected from you. You see how this game works? Yes. And that is how World of Warcraft also works. As long as they get the line to move up, they don't care if Classic World of Warcraft is losing them money. That's actually good. Because if they have something that's losing them money, but they can just tweak it a little bit, aka implement your tokens, implement your microtransactions and whatnot, they can just leave the classic World of Warcraft burning cash, but that doesn't matter as long as the overall line of Blizzard goes up. And when the line starts to drop or, you know, anything like that, they have the ability to just implement these things in classic World of Warcraft, and then the line keeps going slowly up again. Even if something is burning money in a company, as long as it's a publicly traded company, the most important part is that line goes up. It doesn't matter if something's losing you money. As long as it just all looks good, you can keep that thing that's losing your money and then just tweak it at some point that it starts to make you money so you can, you know, be in the same direction. It is a wild thing, business.
You know what? I'll go even further. I don't think Classic can make enough money for Blizzard to give it the resources it deserves. Not currently, anyway. And for proof of this,
I think this is a blatant lie. We watched a Bellior video where I agreed with the where we could see from the graphs that Classic effectively was, you know, doubling Dragonflight. Dragonflight would have been pretty bad in numbers if Classic didn't come out. So Classic is getting the numbers. Currently, Classic is not getting the numbers any longer because Phase 3 is a disaster. But Classic Phase 4, if it's successful, it's gonna be great.
Just look at Blizzard's...
And it's gonna be great. Phase 4 is gonna be the biggest success Blizzard has had in a long time. Because think about it, we're getting Molten Core, multiple heats, multiple difficulties, multiple improvements, dailies, you know, you're no longer just leveling constantly through the whatever they're called, the Emerald Dream Rift shit, you know, that's boring. We have so many options, it's insanity. That's right, it's insanity, and we have all these options, and it's going to be multiple tiers. Think about it, Molten Core, Onyxia, Blackwing Lair, I think Netharian in any case. You know, you got that, you have AQ20, AQ14, Noxurmus, and probably some kind of new raid also. When Phase 4 drops, it's going to be giant.
Own claims from back in 2019 when Classic WoW first launched. Remember all your old friends who were coming back to play the game? Remember all the streamers and games journalists that were raving about how good the experience was going to be? It was a gaming phenomenon back in August 2019.
All of you who did that are idiots. I just skipped the line, press attack, get it faster. You can be in the line here. There's no punishment for the winners. Either you're a winner or you're a loser. Karma does not do anything.
And you know what? That was proven to be the case in the revenue figures. Subscriber revenue grew by 223% in August compared to the previous month. And that is a massive achievement, which is reflected in how popular Classic WoW was. It was great. But you know what's even crazier than that figure? The fact that it actually made less money than the previous year's August when Battle for Azeroth came out.
Yeah, no microtransactions. We already know this. Everything here makes sense. Anyway, I'm starting to get a little bit bored because... good attempt, not gonna lie, good attempt I feel, but a fundamental lack of understanding how businesses function, sadly. It is what it is. Vulgrin, nice video though. Probably pretty decent for people who don't know anything, but I'm assuming a lot of people who... we talk about this quite often, so you guys probably know a lot of this stuff and can pretty much guess, even if you haven't experienced or truly understand what's going on, a lot about this. Anyway, this is Squizzer Sensei. Bye-bye.